terms of timeline, from 88 to 2000, we had the group home for 4 women on First Street. And then around the fall of 95, we began to work with Friendship Place. They had gotten a grant from HUD. I won't go into the details. It was called the Shelter Plus Care Program. And under that, they had vouchers for people moving into homeless people moving into permanent housing. And they said, if you buy an apartment or 2, we can give you a voucher. Anyway, we said okay, and we explored, and we ultimately bought our first apartment in 1996. We never used that Shelter Plus Care money because the District of Columbia was so dysfunctional that money that they had already received in something like 1993 or 4, they still weren't using, and we waited 6 months for them to get the program up and ready, had this vacant apartment, and we decided, well, we're going to do it on our own, and it proved that we could. So from 1996 to 2001, that was in a 5-year period, we bought 4 condos rather cheaply. I'll show you that later. At 2800 Wisconsin, 2829 Connecticut, 4000 Tunlaw, and a second one on Connecticut up near Chevy Chase Circle. Then, when we closed down the group home, we decided this was no longer either a good program model or particularly viable. We rented a 2-bedroom apartment on Longfellow Street. We no longer have that because 2 of the 4 women there were still there, and we moved them into that 2-bedroom apartment. And we kept that for a number of years, 9 years, until the last resident died, and we gave that up. But meanwhile, back in 2002, after our 4th condo purchase, the condo market just went out of sight. And units that we could buy in the $50,000 range, you couldn't get now for over $100,000. And we got a little scared about the financial demands. And so we started renting at Idaho Terrace. And we ultimately had 4 apartments there. One of them we actually gave up because we were buying again. Then we started back in. This is in the Joe Berman age of new adventurousness. I say that with all due respect and gratitude. We started again to purchase units. This time we were buying them in the $150,000 range. And we bought 2 more, one across the street from Idaho Terrace at 3051 Idaho.
Which I want to interject there. He was the former owner of that unit.
And 3701 Connecticut.
Happy with it. Is that how we got into it?
No, well, ultimately, yeah.
So we increased from 4 to 6 units that we actually owned. And in addition, we began to rent a couple units over on 16th Street at the Woodner. And I think this was largely because Friendship Place had already begun their Housing First program, which they call Neighbors First, and was using the Woodner very heavily, not only for the offices of that program, but for housing their participants.
Also, Idaho had become way, way, way more expensive.
We were what looked like a good deal when we started renting, because we were able to rent apartments in the $700 range. Started to look like less and less a good deal because year by year the rents went up, and now they're well over 1,000, right?
Well, yeah, and the other thing is that the only reason that they're at the level that they're at is because they're under rent control. So even though we're paying $1,000 or $1,100 per unit, if we started at a new unit in Idaho, it'd be like $1,500 or something like that. So that's why we went to.
Is
Anyway.
16th Street in Ward 3?
No.
What?
No, 16th Street, we went out.
No, 16th Street is not Ward 3.
So
It's
does
Ward,
Friendship
it's
Place-
either Ward 4 or 2.
Right, so
two.
does Friendship Place do outside of
Oh,
Ward
yes,
3?
I'll get to
Yes.
that, yeah. Way outside.
Way
Yeah,
outside.
okay.
Then, in 2012 and 13, for those 2 years, we started the rent subsidy program, and at least ended it for now, where we were providing 1 to 3 months rent for AIM hire graduates as they moved into their first units. And we put in $41,000 of our money, which mostly came out of our, it ultimately was in the operating budget, but it came out of money that we sold, mutual fund shares to finance it, in fact. But we did help 32 people with just 41,000. I shouldn't say 32 people, 32 AIM hire participants, some of whom were married and few had children, so we ended up actually assisting 44 people with the 41,000. If you look at the number of people and the money, it was roughly $1,000 per person assisted. So it's a whole different model, short-term funding for more people than what we do in our basic plan. So here we are in 2014, and just to get the ball rolling in your thinking, where do we go from here? Should we purchase additional units, since we have money to do so? Should we rent additional units? Should we possibly renew the rent subsidy program? And/or should we think about other program models in which we can invest? So we have a lot of options before us here, and I think that's one of the reasons we're here.
Can I just ask a question? Is the Way Home, are they asking nonprofits like us to contribute to their campaign?
Well, so far I don't really know what the relationships are with other nonprofits. I know that the Friendship House Friendship Place rather, is part of it.